Hi, we're joined today by Elkhart General Hospital Chaplain, Dean Heisey. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks, Heidi. It's great to be with you today.
So we're going to be talking about coping when times are tough, an important topic to be discussing with you. Tell me, we know the saying that we need to take care of ourselves before we care for others. And it's easier said than done, especially during this time, isn't it? Tell me about the importance of setting boundaries and recognizing our limits.
Boundaries mean different things to different people, but I like to think about them just like if I turn my dog in the backyard and I have a fenced backyard. That's a boundary, and I know that this is where my property exists and where my property ends and the neighbor's property begins. If a car goes through that fence, the boundary is broken and I can't assure the safety of my pet when I turn them out. They may wander through. When I think about boundaries, I like to think about knowing where this part of me begins and ends and where the next part of me begins and ends. What is the limit between my work life and my personal life? What are the limits between my professional role in my context and the other ancillary roles that I play in the context, but they're still part of it? The more clarity we get about that boundary, where's the fence line, where's the property line, where do I begin and end, where does somebody else begin and end, the better we're able to take care of ourselves. I'm able to take care of myself. And so sometimes it means saying yes or saying no based on my understanding of the role and where the role ends. Sometimes it means that I'm taking better care of myself by actually saying, that's not really my property. That's not really my role. Boundaries are very important.
They are, especially today, again, as we're caring for so many people. Um, you say we should ask ourselves, how have I made it through tough times, difficult times in the past? Why?
All of us have experiences where we've made it through tough times. A lot of times what we remember the most about the tough time is what I was experiencing at the feeling level. Here's how I felt at that time. But when we go back and gain a perspective on it later on and say, what was my strategy? What strengths did I deploy? It's a different perspective on how we made it through that tough time, different than just remembering how it felt. And I like to encourage people to really remember a tough time of the past and how did I get through it? Wow, that person who was feeling so scared at that time was also very brave and courageous. It's amazing that looking back on it, it took a lot of courage to do what I did to deal with that situation. So we actually affirm ourselves and we actually affirm our own abilities when we remember the past and reflect on it from that perspective of what did I draw on to get through tough times in the past? How might I draw on that same strength in this tough time?
These are unprecedented times, though, so it's probably a little more difficult for some people now to be recognizing what they're feeling and to realize that they can get through it now too.
That's exactly right. And the hard part is to take enough time to become conscious, to put the brakes on, to stop and to ask myself those reflective questions and make myself aware of them.
Well, and you mentioned too the importance of recognizing our void. What do we need to do to rejuvenate or to refill our tanks? Because for a lot of us, the tanks may be nearing empty.
It's like if you're driving and you don't have that fuel gauge, and so you're getting near to empty, but you're not aware of it. Again, the first thing is to become conscious of where am I feeling dried up, wrung dry? Where am I feeling like I'm approaching empty? Where's that meter that tells me you're getting low on fuel? Becoming aware of it is a first step. And then what are the things that I do to rejuvenate myself? This spring, I set out and said, okay, can't exercise in the way we used to exercise. So I'm going to try to get the thatch out of my yard, dethatch my yard manually get as much of it done as I can, but I'm out there working out that stress. And for me, being in the outdoors, hearing the bird song, doing some physical work is rejuvenating, not depleting. And so identify the thing that for me rejuvenates me and be intentional about giving some time to it and actually doing it. But first, recognize when my gas gauge is approaching empty and I need to pay some special attention to rejuvenating, to filling myself back up.
And we need to recognize that this too shall pass, right? And we will get through this together.
Yes, indeed. Yes.
Dean Heisey, thank you so much. Appreciate your insight and perspective today.
Thanks for the opportunity to be with you, Heidi.